All right, everybody, let's go ahead and get started. We've got a great program today. For guests and visitors, my name is Steve Perley, club president, and I'd like to welcome you all to what I believe is the 14th meeting of the 48th year of the Dublin Worthington Rotary Club. I would like to apologize about the food. I don't know where it is. Just kidding, we're fasting today. That's the meal. We're fasting. Is it coming? Oh, fantastic. All right, today's invocation and pledge of allegiance will be offered by the one and only Tom Rice.
Except there are two of us. There are two.
But only one Tom Rice.
Let us pray. Oh God, as we gather in this beautiful place with these good friends, we know that there are places that are not beautiful right now. And there are people who feel very much alone. We think of Ukraine. We remember everyone affected by Hurricane Ian. And especially today, we think of your children struggling with substance abuse and mental illness. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about a topic we too often avoid or deny. And thank you for every chance you give us to make a difference together. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Tom. Teresa, welcome. Just in time to introduce any guests and visiting Rotarians.
If you can cover it, that'd be great.
Sure, looking around the room here. We do have guests.
Yes.
I didn't look at the sheet, so. Roger, do you have guests? Allison. Is it you? Oh, you. You're with the speaker. Oh, yes, we'll introduce Allison.
Hey, Gretchen.
Gretchen, hello.
Gretchen's here again. Yes, how are you?
She's a wine member.
Fantastic.
Farmer brought her a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
She was with a couple of
Perfect.
And Patrick, your other speaker?
Yes. Tim will introduce them a little later. Okay. I believe. Yes, it's our first sergeant. I'm missing something. Alan. Yes. Yes.
Just so you know, Jimmy John's, they say it's fast.
Freaky fast.
Pretty fast. I could have food here before I'm done. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Nice to see you. Don't all talk at once, please. We can make this easy. Everybody can just pony up $2. Okay, too late.
It's 3 now.
Oh, it's 3?
Yeah. Yeah.
I like it. All right.
Inflation, man.
Inflation. All right, so who's got happy dollars? Let's start with that. Yes, sir.
More like bittersweet dollars. And as some of you may know, I'll be leaving to become the city of Kettering's city manager in December. So
That's sad.
Who
voted on that?
announcement for bittersweet.
Thanks, Matt. Congratulations. Hopefully we'll miss you. Who else? Anybody else happy? Roger?
This is not a happy dollar, but Chuck saw, we played poker once a month. Chuck was walking up to Dave King's house and taking steps on a railing. Chuck fell backwards. All his ribs on one side. And up the riverside, they put they call it a shiny silver plate.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Matt, thanks for grabbing the pot.
Yes, sir.
Look at you go. Yes, sir.
It's good to be home. Went on the road and he got Ecuador, Amsterdam.
Wow. Trials and tribulations, retirement.
Can you pass a drug test now?
No.
How about a COVID test? Who else is happy today? Boy, it's a quiet crowd. Nobody, anybody in the Zoom land happy? All right then. Who in this room knew that we had a rah-rah last week? And who was there? So if you were not there, please give Mr. Priest $1. I think we had a special meeting the week before that. It was really early in the morning. I think it was on a Friday. Who was at that meeting? And if your hand is not up, please hand $1. What?
How was that voting?
All right. Let's see.
We were doing the Lord's work curing Mongolians around at the Rotary.
Then you can add another $1. Because 3 is now the limit. No complaining to the sergeant, I think. All right, that's all I got today, everybody. Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah. Announcements, if you have them, come right up. I've got a list of announcements. First one, unfortunately, is sad. Connie's husband, Bill Hendrick, he passed away last week on October 13th. The family will be having a private service and a celebration of life later. But per the wishes of the family, and Little Flowers Board is going to be making a donation to the American Cancer Society in their honor or name. I'm not sure yet, but we will figure that out tomorrow at the board meeting, which takes me to my second announcement, is that tomorrow there is a board meeting at 7:30 a.m. on Zoom. If you are not a board member and interested in attending, please let me know. I'll get you the link. I also want to thank the social committee for providing a great time last week at Napa Kitchen and Bar. I had a great time. I walked home with, well, I left with 2 bottles of wine and a belly full of food and beer, so thank you. Okay, now I'll turn it over to Ellen. Yeah,
Thank you. I do have an announcement. As you all know, I've taken over as chairman from Mr. Rice of your foundation, and I'm very pleased to announce that your foundation has in the last about month helped 2 families, both with rent. And I'd like to thank you all for your support and suggest that if you have room in your heart and or your wallet between now and the end of the year, a little more support would occur from you so that we can continue to support our community. Thank you.
Hey, more news. The Communications Committee finally has a solution to the newsletter problem. We will be having the newsletter back up and running later this week. The first one should go out Friday. Paul Sinkar will be reaching out to some of the club members to do his interview kind of profile again, now that we have an outlet for him. So don't be alarmed if you reach out to. All right. International Service Committee is having a goal setting meeting October 27th. Joe, is it 5 o'clock?
It's 6 o'clock and we'll have pizza and then clear that away and get down to business at that point.
Sounds good. It'll be
We would
at,
very, go ahead, I'm sorry.
you go.
I was just going to say that we would very greatly appreciate attendance and input from folks who are not in the International Service Committee, because very much top of mind is a goal of expanding our reach in the club in general, getting new members, and more effectively communicating what we're doing to others. So Communications Committee has another thing we'd like to have them be doing next week too. Thanks.
Fantastic. And it will be at my office, our quote unquote old meeting space in that conference room.
With the IST meeting will be.
Yes. Ways and Means. Some of you have been requested to send a budget to Ways and Means. I believe that was ISC and Youth Services and Community Service. That budget is due November 15th. If you have questions about it, talk to Jim Farmer and Jim Miller, please.
And And it includes those that are the actual fundraising event we want to get from each fundraiser.
Yes, include the fundraising events of which your budget. You know what I'm trying to say. Good, perfect. All right, food drive, coming up October 29th. We have, what, one slot open still at the Hills Market. We need a few more volunteers at Fresh Time, both on High Street and Summit. Yeah, so see Andrew Stamos if you're available to volunteer for that. Okay, now, Paul.
Well, we're pleased to share that the Slade Hill Volunteer Project has launched, and we have actually our first volunteer at the school. Jim Allen's wife, Ursula, who's a former teacher, was very anxious to get there, and so she was already there, and she's going back Friday. So that started. We're still looking for others. You can be library support, you can be a classroom volunteer, you can be a recess volunteer, or an event volunteer. And if you have any interest, I have information, and I'll be happy to get that to you. Just a reminder that you need to get a volunteer badge, which is a very simple process, and I can direct you to that.
Thank you, Paul, and Teresa.
And not least, did everybody remember that we're doing the donations for October? We are collecting socks, and I did find a location called One Dublin in Dublin that will take them in. And they're excited to have socks from us, mostly for children right now. They're low on that. And they're looking for the ankle style or the no-show socks as opposed to crew socks. So I just picked up 40 pairs at Walmart for less than $25. So bring these in. Next week is our last week, so we'll collect as many as we can.
No use socks, right?
No use socks, brand new.
So that is not a J, right? Doesn't S, not a J. We're not doing jock.
I wouldn't be carrying the box.
Yes.
And do you accept?
Food is here, so we're gonna take a little brief break. Please go get food and get back to your seat as fast as possible so that we do not cut into the speaker's time. Okay.
Stay back here. Does this, is it I used to teach in the classroom. Yeah, I'd be a little louder right
Yeah, take the microphone and have it clear.
I don't like that.
September is kind of late anyway. And
Give me money now. People are not- You know.
Update on this October thing. If,
I think well, I think we have to say, maybe they'll change their tune a year and a half from this time. Well, that's a question. I think we- So, but I think the board has to have a conversation. I feel like we should be out of the business. I think there's enough other things.
Not enough.
Clearly it's not, because they're one. 2 months. So it's happened in December. We've accomplished nothing.
And I don't, I shut it. And she did one.
No,
I guess it's because I'm a woman. I was thinking about the words and we have a caterer that talks about food. Does he consider that we might be plates and forks and napkins? Brought it in.
Oh, they brought it in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. I'll do my sock then.
Well, you guys are all getting settled with food. First of all, our apologies for no forks. The caterer didn't bring, so we'll correct that next week. Can I have your attention for one more quick announcement? If anybody does not want to go out and purchase socks, you can give me money and I will go and do that for you. I'm happy to do it.
Here's the use of Venmo or PayPal,
I'm a cash.
cash only. All right, we'll just give a few more minutes for the lollygaggers to finish getting their meals. And we'll get started again.
I'm gonna send an email to the meeting today.
No, that's you. That's you. Thank you.
All right. In the interest of time, make sure our speaker has plenty of it, I'm gonna invite Tim Shooter to come up here and make an introduction.
Thank you, Steve. Nice to see everybody today. I'm so delighted to introduce my dear friend across many years. Pat McLean is the Chief Financial Officer of the Adam Board here in Franklin County. Pat joined the Adam Board as their CFO fairly recently in August of 2021. And he brings tremendous experience from the intersection of finance and public policy through his work with city councils and the Ohio General Assembly, which is where Pat and I met 20 years ago, Pat?
So a little longer.
Maybe longer than 20, yeah, I guess way longer than 20 years ago. In fact, Don, if you're on,
I saw him on there.
I saw Don on there. I think Pat says hello to Don, going back to those days at the General Assembly. Pat's a native Ohioan. He grew up in Cincinnati, spent time in Toledo, Oxford, Dayton, more than 17 years in Columbus. His 20 years in public service include 11 years with the General Assembly here, 4 years as finance director for the city of Toledo. He served as the finance director for the Office of the Attorney General here in Ohio and associate vice chancellor for the former Ohio Board of Regents. Recently, Pat was the director of the Gerald Ford Institute for Leadership in Public Policy at Albion College in Michigan. Pat has a bachelor's from the University of Dayton and master's degrees from Miami University and the Freie Universität in Berlin. He attended Ohio State University. He served as an adjunct faculty member at Wilmington College and at NYU, which is to say New York University, teaching classes in public policy and philanthropy. He currently serves as chairperson of the board of the Lake Superior Watershed Conservancy and is a past member of the Community Refugee and Immigration Service in Columbus, which is, of course, Jim Farmer, how we became acquainted with Angie Plummer and the folks at Chris. So, Pat, maybe you'll say something about Angie in a moment, but he's a past member of the Greater Hilltop Area Commission. Please welcome warmly my good friend, Pat McLean.
What do you do in your spare time?
Curling.
Hi, Pat. Don Motley here.
Don, good to hear from you.
All right, I'm gonna go back to my teaching days. Wander around, and maybe you're kind of doze off, you'll find me next to your table, talking a little louder than usual. Well, it's good to be with all of you. Tim, thanks for the introduction. And I'd like to start off by asking you to just think about putting yourself in a situation. Imagine that someone you care about, might be a family member, friend, relative, loved one, is having some kind of a mental health crisis. And perhaps they are in danger of harming themselves and harming others. Perhaps they are struggling with thoughts of suicide. Perhaps they are challenged with substance use. What would you do? Who would you call? Where would you go? The answers to these questions are not immediately obvious to most people. However, if you've been in this situation, and many of us have been, then start to realize that the options are fairly limited. We're going to talk today about putting together a physical location, a crisis center in Franklin County that gives all of us a good answer to the question. Start out with a little bit of basic data.
some 21% of Franklin County's 1.3 million residents will experience mental illness in a given year. 1 out of 5 of us. And you know that I say us, right? This touches everybody. It doesn't matter your race, it doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter your gender, it doesn't matter your sexual orientation. Nothing matters. It happens to everybody in every demographic. There's some 30,000 mental health crisis episodes that are treated in Franklin County annually. So that's just the ones that are treated. And that number is somewhat less than the number that are actually out there. 23%, that's the amount that we expect to see an increase in the need for mental health and addiction services over the next 10 years. So we've got issues now. We expect those issues will only increase in the years to come. Now, when we talk about crisis care, there are, go back to my original question, there are some multiple answers to what you might do if you've had that loved one or someone you care about having a mental health crisis. You may want to simply call, and that may be a good answer. 988, as many of you may know, is now live. You can call that. It's in effect the 911 for mental health, behavioral health issues, substance use. So you can do that, and we will be directed in the right place. Mobile response. Many of you know, and there's been a lot of press around the whole issue of who comes and who is the right person to come when people are having emergencies. If someone calls, they'll call law enforcement, they call local EMTs. And in both cases, they're not necessarily fully equipped to handle what someone having a mental health crisis might need. They may do their best, but many of them will tell you themselves that that's not what they were trained to do. And so getting them to the right place becomes important. So what I want to talk to you about today is building this crisis center. So that's the third part of the 3-late stool around crisis care. Now, in the course of planning for this center, we have been working, and I wasn't part of that since Tim mentioned I just started about a year ago. But this project, while it is starting to reach one where we're going to have shovels in the ground, talk about that in a second. But it's been underway for some 5 or 6 years now, with community meetings, with stakeholder groups getting together, the development of a steering committee and a community advisory council. So that has included community providers, so behavioral health providers, and Adam H is part of funding a network of those providers, so 30 of them across the county, hospitals, law enforcement, advocacy organizations, and individuals and families with lived experiences, those people who have themselves experienced mental health challenges or who know loved ones who have experienced mental health issues. So our vision is that we're going to have a safe, secure facility that has a capacity to serve anyone at any time. We'll be open 24/7, 365 days a year. It'll have a full array of services to support individuals, and we'll talk about those services in the next slide, I think. And we are going to integrate peer support, that is those who have had lived experiences, into all levels of care. And also, it is not the case that when you come to this facility that you would be released and told good luck. To the contrary, part and parcel of what we're trying to build is a system that when you are released, when you have been stabilized from that crisis situation, that you are given the resources, including actually meeting with people from community-based provider organizations, meet with them, know what your next steps are, know where the right place to go is, whether it's back home might be okay in some cases, in other cases, maybe going into some other form of treatment. But the idea is that we build a crisis center to stabilize people, but also to give them the tools that they need as they move forward in the facility. So here are the levels of care. I mentioned you can walk in. Some people will do that. We expect many others will come through EMTs and law enforcement. We'll have a facility space for them to do that. And they may be able to, in 24-hour period, be stabilized, but some won't be. And some will need to stay for a longer period of time. And so we have an observation capacity. And then we also have inpatient, those who may need to stay for several days. And we'll have 16 beds for that. In addition, we'll have pharmacy services. You may, for example, need medication for a couple of days to get you through a weekend until your regular prescription can be filled. It's not a full-scale pharmacy. It's not a pharmacy that others from off the street can walk into and use the way you might use a CVS. But it'll cover most of the needs for those who are receiving crisis care. We have medical services. Many people that come in to a facility like this are in mental health crisis, but also have physical needs as well. And so we'll be equipped to take care of those kinds of needs at a certain level. We go on to a certain level, we'll work with our emergency departments around the city and get transported to those. Other community services and family support services will also be available. And that's what I was talking about with regard to working with community providers to take the next step when people are finished with the sort of stabilization process, being able then to move on to the next step. And we also have, I mentioned mental health, but we also have substance use disorder treatment services. Where's the center going to be? This map shows it. Let's see if the next one is a little better. So it's can't see it terribly well here. This shows a little bit. So it's the inner. It is where 315 comes from south, comes north into I-70, 70-71, that split. If you know you can see the west edge, the big W. You can see from the highway as you're heading on I-70 eastbound. Go over to your right, and you see that. So it's on Harmon Avenue, where the mountain becomes Harmon, near Franklin County Children's Services. We're right across the street from SCCS. And you are among the first people to see actual records of what the facility will look like. This is an early stage draft. It won't look like this exactly, but it is a 2-story, 72,000 square foot facility. It is very much meant to be a facility that looks like a place where you can get care and where you can get better. It is welcoming, and the people who come in feel like it's a place that they don't want to run from. Right? I mean, there's danger that a lot of these facilities, we can tour a lot of them around the country. Honestly, they look like prisons, and that's exactly what we don't want to have in place. So the aesthetics will matter. One more there. That's the only thing use I have, but a lot of white, parts. I don't think I have it here, but one of the renderings that we've got shows people in an actual treatment area, so an open area. The traditional mental health facilities often have a center area, think of it like a nursing station in a hospital, with rooms that might surround that. Ours will look very different. There will be some offices, some private spaces, but a lot of the treatment areas will be open, looking like a large room, not unlike this, with therapeutic lounges for patients, and unless you know what the staff is wearing, you may or may not know which ones are staff and which ones are there for treatment. Now, I like to say we are building, and when I say we are building, I don't mean Adam H. I mean Franklin County. I mean all of you, all of us. We are truly receiving support from a wide range of the community. This, I don't know if you can read this chart, but this shows that we're getting money from Franklin County commissioners, so county governments, 10 million, and they follow up with another 5 million ARPA dollars, 10 million from the city of Columbus, $8 million from our 3 hospital systems, Mount Carmel, Ohio Health, and OSU. We have raised about 6.6 million so far in philanthropic dollars from local foundations. We've got another 4 million to go. For that, we've got 4.5 million from the state of Ohio. We've got a little bit of federal funding. So federal government is in here as well, and Adam H itself through your levy dollars is contributing by $11 million. So overall, it's a 59.986 million project, not 46. We have a top-notch team that is working with us to construct this building. Elford is our construction manager. NBBJ, which many of you have probably heard of, also built the designed the nationwide children's behavioral health pavilion. Familiar with that? We hope that we are going to be breaking ground the end of this year or beginning of next year. We have just gone through the first stages of our rezoning process, so they do the Franklinton Area Commission, and they unanimously passed our request for rezoning. We'll take it to the Planning Commission and ultimately the City Council still this year. And we hope to be able to do a ribbon cutting in 2024 or early 2025 with services available for everybody in Franklin County at that time. So I think that's the nuts and bolts. Happy to answer any questions.
This may be out of the scope of this meeting, but I had a family member that had a crisis, and at the time, we felt as, the outside in, we were having a hard time figuring out what to do because the person in crisis, obviously was kind of non-responsive. But we couldn't force them to go get treatment. So I'm curious, when somebody in this room has somebody that's going through a crisis, what is kind of the best practice or best approach to try to get them help?
Yeah, it's a little bit beyond, I do not want to pass myself off as an expert on the money guy, trying to make sure that it's built, but it certainly doesn't hurt now to call that 988 number and talk to them about what you should be doing. Right, and there's a good chance that they're going to try to connect you, depending on what you're able to tell them, what the nature of the situation seems to be. I mentioned briefly that we've got this network of providers, so we don't provide ourselves. NMH does not provide behavioral health services. We fund, we plan for, and we evaluate those services throughout the county. So as part of that, we fund a network of some 30+ providers, and some of them have different specific areas of expertise. Right? Some do prevention programs, some of them do a lot of treatment. Centero operates up in this area a great deal. Mary Haven does a lot of work with substance use disorder. So depending on what the situation might be, that is probably the best answer I can give you right now in that kind of crisis situation. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I commend you a great deal for needed for quite a few years. First, like this is all a place called St. Anne's Hospital back in the 70s, maybe. And it was very similar to what you provided for every mental health center. It also covered the state discharge from the state hospital at any one time. And it used many of the things that we talked about. There was no aid, but you were either a social worker or a nurse. We did discharge planning, and literally each of the mental health centers had a staff member coming in, meet them, and give them a phone policy without a phone.
Yeah, that's sort of our goal. Anybody that just walks out of our facilities really is at some levels of the systems fail.
Well, there was a study done with that initial phase that indicated it's about a 75% chance of return. So one of my questions in looking at that model, they were accepting clients from the mental health centers as referrals to make sure that that's good full. Allotment was 16 beds for the community and 10 beds for the state hospital. So very similar numbers, but it kept the place operating until federal money kind of ran out. So that's part of my question. Will they be accepting non-crisis individuals from if they cannot find a place for a bed?
This is meant to be specifically for those in crisis, meant to be short term. That said, it will be part of the network. So if someone would come in looking for that, they would be just, sorry, you're in the wrong place. We were told that. Certainly work with our other providers to see what we do.
But we also accepted the Rotary from the police. So we had a good number of recommendations that the mental health center had that catch up. That's such a bad lot.
Yeah, I should mention, we do have currently crisis care in the community, so you may know that through Netcare. And they are getting, not out of the overall crisis treatment area, but the 24/7 access, they are closing that down. That will be, they will cease to provide that service on November the 25th. They have been a provider for a number of years. We are working right now on another project that I've been working on, several people in the office at all levels have been working on, is trying to figure out the bridge from the time that care closes down until this crisis center opens up. Significant challenge for the hospitals and their EDs, stakeholders, providers, we're committed to trying to find a bridge program to make that happen. So there's always somewhere. So
along with that question and only having 16 beds, so I would imagine you could fill that up in a day with people in crisis. But so what is the process? What they come in for what and end up going where?
Well, so they'll go into a triage area to determine what their needs may be. And again, I'm not a clinical person, and I don't want to pretend to be that person. But as I said, there's some people that will be able to be discharged within a matter of hours. There are others that may need to be in that 23-hour observation unit. So already we're talking about a good number of people that have come in who haven't even waited to that longer term. We don't automatically put someone in the bed when they come in. So it's only those that are going to need to be there for multiple days and nights that would use those beds. Is that going to be the right number? Based on our data, we think so, but we're going to find out. And that's part of, we had to make a whole lot of assumptions about what this need might be. Right now at Netcare, still providing some of those services, albeit on a limited basis. We're seeing some of the numbers decline. We don't know if that's a blip. We don't know if that's a trend. We're constantly doing evaluation of data, trying to figure out how many people will need to treat and whether that number is going to be right. Right now, we think that 16 bed is a good number, not only now, but we're trying to build this for the 10-year period thereafter as well. So we think we've got it right, but I can't stand before you and say that's absolutely the right number. No, it's not. Yes, sir.
Well, there's a lot of dimensions to this, and I sure appreciate the fact that you helped with this whole dimensionality. But one more is transportation. It's a new facility on Coda.
It is. In fact, the location that we chose had to be centrally located. So it was really the geographic center of town. It needed to be near Coda, near a Coda stop, and it is as well. We're really sensitive to pedestrian access on the site, to the site. We're working with Franklinton Area Commission folks to make sure that the walkways in that area will accommodate people that might walk in. I don't think we're going to get a lot of walk-in traffic. If I walk in, we're going to be walking, physically walking in also. car traffic, parking as well. But yes, we did think about that. And then there's also the transportation issues afterwards, where people are going to go, we want to accommodate that. There are also new transportation needs. Say that somebody comes in, has medical issues in addition to the mental health situation, and they need to be transported to an emergency room and then brought back. We'll deal with those kinds of things as well. So transportation is a pretty big situation like that.
I mentioned to Tim earlier, I attended a seminar last night at Worthington Kilbourne High School for all winter sports coaches. It was entirely about teenage mental health issues. And we're saddened to learn that 19% of today's teenagers have had suicidal thoughts. To what extent are AdamH services geared towards young people?
So ours are for those 18 and above, but Nationwide Children's Behavioral Health is for those below 18. So we're very sensitive to it, but we plan for the needs that aren't addressed. We think Nationwide does a good job with that population. And so at this age, we would certainly refer with them. They're part of our network. Very interested. Very strong as well.
Okay. So following up on Ken's question, I think you said 988 is the call-in number. Is 988 going to be able to effectively triage if they get a call from a 15-year-old kid as opposed to an adult? There's a very thorough protocol already set up to bifurcate who's going where.
This is fairly new. It's gotten started, and I hope that what you suggested is going to play itself out. That we'll be able to triage people. That's the goal. That's the design right now. But there's some challenges. For example, if someone calls the 98, where do they get routed? Right now, they use technology that's based on their area code. Well, I've got a 614 area code, but I have that 614 area code when I live in Michigan too. So it's 15 years, and so there's no those kinds of challenges. You don't want to, it gets worse with people as you pass it on to somebody else. You hope that the triage can work. So I think that there are going to be some kinks to get out of it, but the initial data, as I understand it, is that there are increased calls to that number. There were other numbers, local numbers that were all around. But the data is pretty early, so it's hard to say a lot of meaningful things. It's just online earlier this year.
There's a follow-up question. If you guys find that 16 beds is not sufficient, you physically have is the structure physically capable of nicely expanding?
That's a definite maybe. Maybe. We have, actually, as I mentioned, we built this out for the next 10 years, we think. So we haven't built a whole lot of additional capacity in for right now, but there is that capacity that we think is going to allow it to grow over that 10-year period. Beyond that, I think we're going to address that as we go. We'll see what those trend lines are. But there's a possibility to outfit other facilities as well. We have to connect them. So much can change between now and then. We had to make some decisions out here where we'll do. And there are some capacity areas where some facilities and some features of the building can be built out later. Some investment gardens, some things that save money by not having to do this now. And looking at infrastructure so that they can add it later at the cost.
All right. Thank you very much for coming to speak to us today. Thank you again to our speaker for sharing with us what's going on down there. Very interesting. Next week, we'll have Dave McCorkle. Is that right, Wayne? Sure. Economic Development Manager of the Worthington Economic Development Center, to come talk to us about commending guests. Of? Yeah, right? Pretty cool, huh? So make sure you're coming next week for that. Now we have a raffle.
We're talking real money now,
Woo!
$31.
$31. It's working. At the Rotary, we have what, $55 winner, Dave Hansen? Yeah.
Now, the numbers are a lot longer. So let's go with the last three, 184.
184.
Guess what?
What?
Oh.
These new tickets are great.
Yeah. Oh, my God. 184.
Make sure those tickets pass the four-way test.
There you go.
Thank you.
All right. How much is in the ace of spades?
128.
128.
All right. Last three, 174.
174.
No.
It must be my day.
Is this for real?
I'm gonna follow you around.
All right, come on, Dave.
New tickets, new winner.
He's capable of it too, I just know it.
Yes, he is. Think so?
I do. I don't like it, but I think so.
It's the right word.
All right, as we adjourn, if you would join me in the recitation of the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, and do, first.
Is it the truth?
Second.
Is it fair to all concerned?
Third.
Will it build and better friendships?
And fourth.
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your week. We are adjourned.
This goes in the foundation. Are you gonna write a check for that too?
I got my favorite.
Yeah. No, I'm a precious one, yeah. I put it back at this party.
It's a crazy situation. Seemingly no one has the power to do what needs to be done until it's too late. Until it's too late, then you have to hope that nothing is personal, right? Kill somebody. It was very difficult.
That sounds like you got through it.
Yeah. It's a mess. Well, I'm glad that it got to 988. Maybe it's gonna put you in touch with someone. So you're really one part more mental health. It used to be they were sending everybody home. And they had to change the law. So now, if there's a problem, you see it real quickly, you know someone needs to be done. And you can't really go there. Ryan was, same situation here. Like, they're in crisis. I'm not wrong for it. It'd be helpful. Yeah.